Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Reinhardt Math. Let's do some sectors today. So you need your handouts. You have one on area of a sector, and you also have one on perimeter of a sector. And you should also have a little handout that says sectors steps to success. Besides that, you will need to have a pencil and a calculator. So pause the video, and when you're ready, go ahead and hit play. So today we are learning about sectors, and this is an example of a sector in the background, this delicious, nummy chocolate cake. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? And so good. So that's a sector. It's just a piece of the pie, or in this case, the cake. So what is a sector? It's a piece of a circle that includes the middle. So each section of a circle graph can be defined as a sector. It's just a piece of it. Vocabulary that you'll need to know. A sector is a piece of the pie. It's a portion of the circle that includes a center and an arc length. Arc length. Well, that's the portion of a circumference that's a curved part of the sector. So you think of a picture of one sector. The arc length is a squiggly piece, like the crust. It's the curved part. Pause the video and write down those two words. So now that you have those two words down, the sector again is just the whole piece of the pie, and the arc length is just the outside curved piece. Then we have the radii. The radii is the two pieces of radius. So radius is from the center to the outside. So here's a radii, and here's another radius, and you have two radiuses together. You call them radii. So you take off the us, and you add an I. And then the next thing you're going to have to know how to do is find the circumference of the circle. In the prior lesson, you learned that circumference is pi times diameter all the way across the circle. We use 3.14 for pi. How many degrees are in a circle? You'll need to know that there are 360 degrees that make up an entire circle. So 360 degrees to go all the way around. You also need to know how to find the area of a circle. The area of a circle is pi r squared, or pi times radius squared. Pause the video and write down those vocabulary words. So please make sure you follow the steps to success. When you're doing your work, I would love it if you could number your work. So for example, if you look at your little sheet, it says finding the perimeter of a sector. You have step 1. That should be next to the number 1. So you need to find the circumference of the circle, which is pi times diameter. You show the formula, and then underneath it, you write C again, and 3.14 times whatever your diameter is, and then another C, and then you write your answer with a label. Please put a box or a circle around your label so that it's going to be super easy for you to grade. Then you go to step 2. Your steps for step 2 are to find this fraction of the circle. So you're going to take whatever fraction you have out of 360 degrees, because that's how many degrees are in a circle, and you write your answer, and again you're going to circle, square box your answer. Step 3, you're finding the arc length. Arc length, I'm going to abbreviate that AL. Feel free to do this the same. It's the circumference, the answer from number 1, times the answer from number 2. So you're not going to write the lines, but you're going to do the work, and then you have arc length equals. You'll have an answer, and that's going to just be in units. And then right underneath there, you should do step 4. Okay? So that's just an example of how you're going to line up your work. 1 comes before 2, comes before 3, comes before 4. And if you follow those steps, you'll be successful. That's why I call them steps to success. Cool. Anyone want to go for a run? Okay. So now we're going to be working on the perimeter of a sector. So make sure you find the handout that says perimeter of sector notes. The first step is to find the circumference of the entire circle. So you're going to have to do C equals pi times D. The second step is to find the portion of the circle that's in the sector. So you take, if you're given degrees, you take the theta, the number of degrees, and you divide it by 360 to figure out what percent or what fraction of the circle you have. You could write that fraction as a decimal most times, but if you have like a third or 2/3, you're going to want to keep it as a fraction. Then to find the arc length, you need to take your answer from number 1 and multiply it by your answer from number 2, because the arc length is just a piece of the circumference. And so you're taking the portion times the entire circumference to figure out what the length of this little side is. You're finding the crust, the arc length. And then to find the entire circumference of the sector, circumference of sector, this is how you're going to write it. Circumference and then of, so you put parentheses, write down the word sector, equals the radius plus the radius plus the arc length. Now you can add in any order, it doesn't matter, but you need to show those three numbers. And then you're going to put circumference of sector, and if you want to do C of S like this, you can abbreviate it like that. Then your answer is going to be labeled in just units. So whatever unit you have, inches, feet, if there's nothing there, you write the word units. All right. So now that you have an introduction, we're going to practice and practice and practice. That's why we're doing our notes. Make sure you have your steps of success next to you. All right. So let's find the first one. Sorry, I had the wrong slide there. So this is going to be a piece of cake. You like that cupcake? I thought it was a cool picture. So as long as you have your calculator, your pencil, and your steps of success along with your notes sheet, just follow along and this will be quite easy. We're going to break it into little pieces so it doesn't seem so daunting. So let's follow the steps. So step one. The first step is to find the side of your paper that says perimeter of a sector. Make sure you're on that side. Okay, so first step is to find the circumference. So you write a number 1. Let me change colors here. Write a number 1, and then we're finding circumference. So C equals pi times D. Now our circumference of this entire circle is going to be 3.14, and now I need to figure out my diameter. So I look at my picture. It says the radius is 8 inches. That's halfway across the circle. So all the way across would be double that, or 8 times 2. I get 16 inches. So my circumference is going to be 3.14 times 16. Pause the video and see if you can find the circumference. So you got the circumference all the way around the circle to be 50.24. But we're not finding the perimeter of all the way around the circle. We just want to find the perimeter of your piece of pie. So in order to do that, you need to figure out the percent of the circle that you have. So you take the number of degrees. Sometimes you have a degree symbol, or sometimes you'll have a theta symbol with a fraction or a degree sign. You have 120 degrees out of a total of 360. So this is a fraction, 1236, or 120 over 360. So to do that, you take 120 and divide by 360. Now sometimes they're going to be nice, but in this case, you reduce to a third. I always check with my ABC button first, or I can reduce it to 1236, then divide by 12 over 12. I get a third of the piece. This is 1/3 of the entire piece. So I want to keep it as 1/3. It makes my life a lot easier because I can't enter 0.3 forever into my calculator. So the third step is to find the perimeter of the sector. So to do that, is to find the arc length. The arc length, in order to do that, you take your first answer of circumference and multiply it by the percent of the circle that you have, the portion. Now you don't have to write this step down, but the arc length will be 50.24, so I'm just writing it so you can see it, times a third. Now to do this in your calculator, you want to put 1/3 in first. So in your calculator, do 1 divided by 3, and then make sure you hit the equal sign. That gets that long repeating decimal into your calculator. And then you multiply it by 50.24, and you'll get your answer of arc length. I'm going to abbreviate it AL. Is 16.746 forever, and this is going to be in inches. Do not clear that answer from your calculator. Do not clear that answer from your calculator, because step 4, to get your final answer, the perimeter of the sector, you're going to take the radius plus the radius, or the radius times 2, plus the arc length. Well, if you already had the arc length in your calculator, it's a lot faster. So the radius in this case was 8, so I'm going to add 8 and 8, and that's 16.746 forever. That's already in my calculator. And the perimeter of my sector, or P of S, is going to be 32 and 746 forever. Perimeter, label, just units, so inches. This is my final answer. When you're doing your homework, though, it's going to be worth 4 points. 1 point for getting the circumference, 1 point for getting your portion, 1 point for getting your arc length, which is here. I forgot to circle highlight that. And then 1 point for your final answer of the perimeter of the sector. So 4 points in all. Okay, pause the video. When you're ready for the second example, look at your sheet and look at number 2, and we'll get started. So in this case, the circumference of the circle is going to be pi times d, 3.14. The diameter all the way across is 24, so I plug in a 24. And when I put that in my calculator, I get an answer of 75.36, and my label for circumference is just plain units, so it's going to be millimeters. The next step is to find the portion of the circle. So you're given the degrees, in this case, 180 out of a total of 360 degrees in a circle. If you want to reduce it to 18 over 36, you can. And then using your fraction key or dividing, you get a half, which is also equal to 0.5. If it's a truncating or a terminating decimal, you can use this number. So you want to make sure you circle or highlight because those are going to be worth points. Step 3 is to find the arc length. Arc length, I'm going to abbreviate AL, is your circumference, 75.36, multiplied by the section of the circle you have. So you keep your prior answer, and then all you have to do is hit times. Your arc length is equal to 37.68, and your unit is millimeters. So that's just this piece right here. So you think of it as like the crust of the piece of pie. That's how long it is. Again, highlight your answer. And the last step is to find the perimeter. So you want to go all the way across. Well, in this case, it's easy because you have a diameter here. So you could either add the diameter, or normally the perimeter of the sector is not so easy. So it's the radius plus the radius, which is the diameter, plus your arc length. Well, in this case, both of the radius is added to the diameter, which is already given to us. I'm going to use that, plus the number that's already in my calculator of 37.68. So the perimeter of this sector is going to be 61.68, and since it's perimeter, it's just in units. So pause the video and make sure you have all 4 steps written down, and please practice circle, highlighting, and squaring your final answer, your 4 answers per problem, because it's going to be 4 points per problem. Pause video. Alright, so in this case, again, I am trying to get you to be independent. So the first step is pi times d. So why don't you start and write down these skeleton notes and see if you can pause the video and fill them in on your own. I'm going to pause and do it, and then when you hit the play button, you'll see all the answers. How did you do? So check out your work and then pause and start another one. Even if you had a problem as ambiguous in this, you should be able to find the perimeter of a sector. You're not given the degrees in this one, but you do know how many pieces of the pie it is. So your percentage is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 pieces and you have 2 sevenths. So your arc length, your second step after you find your circumference would just be 2 sevenths. That's the fraction you'd use. If you had an example that looks like this again, you're probably going to have a degrees sign. So that again will be given to you, and then you can use that 30 degrees out of 360. All right, we're taking a break. I'm going to have another video for the area of a sector. Practice makes perfect, so now you should be able to do the homework on perimeter of a sector. Thanks everybody. I appreciate your time.